Hello everyone. In this short, we'll talk about the various data types in the JavaScript language. Now in JavaScript, there are around, as you can see in my screen, 7 data types. So as you can see, they are string, number, boolean, null and defined, object and function. Now the first 5 can be classified as primitive data types, while 6 and 7, line number 6 and 7, are non-primitive. So let's look at each of them. How do we write a string data type? So we start by creating a variable. In JavaScript, variables are written in this format. You write the keyword var and then you give a name. So let's say name. I'm calling my variable name, and to this I can assign a string. So a string in JavaScript can be written in many ways. So let's say name, Tom. So this is one way of writing a string. Now there are other two ways in which you can write a string. I'll call this name 2 and name 3. And a string in JavaScript could also be in single quotes. And the third way is backticks. So these are the three ways in which I could create variables of which would hold a string data type. Let's move on to number. Now in JavaScript, number as a data type could mean a whole number, and or it would be a decimal, a float. JavaScript does not differentiate between them. For it, both are numbers. So let's see. So again, var keyword, uh, favorite number. So I created a variable and to this assign something called 7. And like I said, I could write favorite number is 7 pi 3.14. In JavaScript, both the data types are number. Boolean. Boolean is true or false. So this is how I just write Boolean. It has two values, true and false. Created two variables and assigned values to them. Things get interesting when we come to null and undefined. So what is a null data type? Let's say you create a variable to store the country, the value country. So I created this variable called country, and I could assign it the value null. Null in some sense means nothing, but null here is also a kind of a value. It's a data type. Like when I say data type, JavaScript identifies null as a certain type of value, which is null. When we talk of applications, you would be able to understand more clearly. But for now, this should work. So when I said interesting, because now when I speak of undefined, you would know what I'm trying to say. So if I have a variable called city, and I could assign, just like how I did for null, I could assign a value undefined to this variable city. So what do we see here? That city, a variable called city, has the value undefined. We generally don't do this. But undefined is something that could even get implicitly assigned to a variable. For example, I could, if I did something like this, I created a variable gave it a name city, and did not assign a value to it. Now, in such a scenario, the value of city is undefined. So again, what I showed some time back, you could explicitly assign undefined as a value to a variable, or if you don't assign a value to it and just define it, it still holds undefined. All right, we'll move on to, like I said, the non-primitive types, objects. Now, objects are a certain data type to hold information which could be of different data types. So if I could say location, and I use something called an object literal using the flower brackets, and this is how I create an empty object. Now I could have uh, more information in this, so I'll just add some information. I would say, let's say country, and string, I would say New Delhi. So what I just did is I created an object and I assigned to this key country a value New Delhi. And when I said it could hold information of various data types, I could have a second key and I could say pin. And here I could do something like 9. This would still hold. So this is an object. And and lastly, function. So functions um, can be defined in various ways. So we'll just go with the way which we are doing right now, which is we use the var keyword. We give it a name. Let's say area of circle, and to this I can do something like this. So this is a function without a body and which takes no parameters. But this here is just to demonstrate that at line 22, I have a function called area of a circle. So with this, I have covered all the data types, the 7 data types that I mentioned. Uh, just to end it, I would touch upon one function called type of. It could be used as a function or as a unary operator, uh, using which you could identify what the data type is. So let's say that you have a function that tries to identify, okay, we'll not do this. So I'll just speak about type of. We'll go to applications in some other video. So type of. Now I said type of can be used as a function. So I could do something like this and I could say type of, and let's take any of these. Um, let's take happy, type of happy, and we'll try to log it. Okay, we'll try to log this and let's see what I get. So node, I just ran this file and I'm logging happy at line number 24. I'm logging type of happy, and as you see, it's Boolean. So if I would do the same for each of these variables, I could see, as we discussed, area of circle. We'll just check that, and we'll also cover, location. Let's see. So Boolean, we should get function, and we should get object. So this is how you could, using type of, you could come to know the data type that a variable holds. For completeness, we'll cover the rest. Also, I'll just do a copy paste. And what have I to cover? Number and string. So name and what was it? Pi. So, and what do we have lastly? Country, and we have city. So um, before I go and print the values, so we are already covered happy area of circle and location. So name would be string. What would country and city be? Country, null. But is it going to be null? And city undefined? So let's find out. All right, Boolean function object, we covered these. Name is string. And country is object. What I mentioned some time back is null, but I see object. And city, okay, city is undefined. Like I said, you assign no value to it, it is as good as undefined. Okay, so what is the curious case of null being called an object? Now, this is not, there's nothing much to it, but just that uh, when they started off uh, null, they called it an object data type. And when they realized to fix this, um, they couldn't because of reasons of backward compatibility. So since then, it has stuck since the beginning of when JavaScript, when the null data type was, uh, you know, released as object, it has remained so. All right, with that, we end this session on data types in JavaScript. Let me know in the comments below if you liked it or not.